Right, hi you guys. This is chapter 5, chapter chat, and today for this chapter chat, I really am only going to focus on about one full page. In my book, the pages that I want to focus on are 67 to 68. If you have the older copy of the book, that's where you'll find this scene too. If not, it's really the first couple of pages in chapter 5. And in chapter 5, it begins, it's Rosh Hashanah, is how you see that. And this is considered the Jewish New Year. And it's a time when the kind of year is changing, and it's a time where Jewish people often kind of ask God for forgiveness and look for redemption as they're like kind of cleansing their soul of sins in preparation for a new year. It's a time when Jewish people will rededicate themselves to God, and it's one of the most important religious holidays. And so the setting of this particular chapter, that it's Rosh Hashanah, has a pretty dramatic effect on Eliezer. And it's a scene where we see that lots of people in these camps are celebrating this holiday, and they're praying and kind of rededicating themselves to God, and that really has a strong impact on Eliezer. He's really angry in response. So I'm actually going to read through this section and then chat a little bit about kind of anger and strength, because those are two themes that appear here. So at the beginning of 67, it says, some 10,000 men had come to participate in a solemn service, including the Blockaliste, the capos, all bureaucrats in the service of death, he says. Blessed be the Almighty. The voice of the officiating inmate had just become audible. At first I thought it was the wind. Blessed be God's name. Thousands of lips repeated the benediction, bent over like trees in a storm. So one thing that I'm noticing here that Wiesel is doing is he starts with a quotation of some of the prayer that's happening, and then he interjects what he's thinking in these moments. And he keeps going back and forth like this to kind of create the scene for us. Blessed be God's name. Why? But why would I bless him? Every fiber in me rebelled, because he caused thousands of children to burn in his mass graves, because he kept 6 crematoria working day and night, including Sabbath and the holy days, because in his great might he had created Auschwitz, Birkenau, Buna, and so many other factories of death. How could I say to him, blessed be thou, Almighty, Master of the universe, who chose us among all nations to be tortured day and night, to watch as our fathers, our mothers, our brothers end up in the furnaces? Praise be thy holy name for having chosen us to be slaughtered on thine altar. I listened as the inmate's voice rose. It was a powerful yet broken, amid the weeping, the sobbing, the sighing of the entire congregation. All the earth and universe are God's. So here he's coming back into the prayer that's happening. He kept pausing as though he lacked the strength to uncover the meaning behind the text. The melody was stifled in his throat. And I, the former mystic, was thinking, yes, man is stronger, greater than God. When Adam and Eve deceived you, you chased them from paradise. When you were displeased by Noah's generation, you brought down the flood. When Sodom lost your favor, you caused the heavens to rain down fire and damnation. But look at these men whom you have betrayed, allowing them to be tortured, slaughtered, gassed, and burned. What do? They pray before you. They praise your name. Again, all creation bears witness to the greatness of God. In days gone by, Rosh Hashanah had dominated my life. I knew that my sins grieved the Almighty, and so I pleaded for forgiveness. In those days, I fully believed that the salvation of the world depended on every one of my deeds, on every one of my prayers. Right? So here he's talking about how much he used to believe in God and how much he used to believe that this practice of devoting himself to God had an impact on how life turned out and how the world worked. But now, he says, I no longer pleaded for anything. I was no longer able to lament. He was no longer able to kind of feel that God was there and he could ask for things. On the contrary, I felt very strong. I was the accuser, God the accused. My eyes had opened and I was alone, terribly alone in a world without God, without man, without love or mercy. I was nothing but ashes now, but I felt myself to be stronger than this Almighty to whom my life had been bound for so long. In the midst of these men assembled for prayer, I felt like an observer, a stranger. Okay, so that's the section that I wanted to kind of revisit. And instead of talking too much about what's happening in this section, I actually want to pose a question to all of you. He's talking about feeling really strong in his anger here, and I am wondering if that's a common reaction, right, about anger and strength, if we often see those two as really connected. And so I want you to think about whether or not you feel like rejecting other people and rejecting your reliance on other people, whether that be other actual people or like faith in God, makes you stronger. I ask that question for two reasons. One, because I see that he's having that reaction here, but that's contrasted so much with Akiba Drumer and Stein. Both of those characters, when they lose their connection to other people and they lose their reliance on those relationships, they then die. So they're at their weakest, and we see Akiba Drumer have that same reaction in this chapter, where when he loses his faith in God, he starts wandering around, saying things like, where is God? God isn't here anymore. He has forsaken us. And that's kind of a death sentence for him. And Eliezer seems to be pretty reliant on his relationship with his father. So I want you to think a little bit and maybe even talk about it in your journal entry for chapter 5. There's a question about anger and where it's placed and whether or not that's just. So that's my question to you. Do you think that strength is found in rejecting your reliance on other people and on God? Or do you think that strength is found when you have connection and faith in people and in some sort of higher power? And that's it for my chapter chat for chapter 5 of Night. We are more than halfway through this memoir, and so many of you will kind of fly through the last couple of chapters. 7, 8, and 9 together is your final reading. And so keep communicating with me about what you need to see or hear. Make sure that you visit Miss Brown's YouTube channel if you'd like to do some more close reading and annotating. She's doing that under her camera so that she can do those close reads with you if you want to dig into the language of the text a little bit more. Otherwise, stay tuned, and I'll have your chapter 6 chapter chat here for you tomorrow.